Today, we're going to dig deep, I mean literally deep, beneath the marble ruins of ancient Rome. We're looking for the real foundation of its empire. And trust me, it's not what you think. It's not some grand temple or a glittering palace. It's a sewer.
You know, we always think about the legions, the gladiators, the epic battles, but forget all that for a second. This quote, this gets right to the heart of our story today. The rise of Rome was first and foremost an engineering triumph. It was this brutal, absolutely brilliant battle against the very land the city was built on.
I mean, it just seems impossible, right? How could a place that was actively hostile to human life, a place that would literally kill you, become the center of the known world? Well, the answer lies deep underground, with one incredible feat of engineering that changed, well, everything.
Okay, so first things first, we need to understand the scale of the problem they were facing. Because before Rome was an empire, before it was even really a city, it was a death trap.
So try to picture early Rome. You've got the famous Seven Hills, right? But they were basically these isolated little islands of survival. Because connecting them all, down in the valley below, was the Velabrum marsh, a stagnant, malaria-ridden swamp. You couldn't build a unified city there. No way. It was just impossible.
And let's be clear, this swamp wasn't just, an inconvenience. It was actively preventing Rome from becoming Rome. It was a breeding ground for deadly disease, it kept all the little communities on the hills separate and weak, and it made the idea of a central meeting place, a forum, a complete fantasy.
But then a solution arrived, and it came from Rome's neighbors and, at the time, their rulers, the Etruscans. And these guys, they were absolute masters of hydraulics.
And what a solution it was. I mean, this was not just digging a ditch. Can you just imagine the brutal, backbreaking labor? You're excavating a massive trench while standing waist-deep in a toxic swamp, and then you have to somehow wrestle these enormous blocks of volcanic stone into a perfect arch, all to channel that deadly water away.
And here is the single most incredible detail. They used no mortar. Just think about that for a second. These huge volcanic blocks were cut and placed with such mind-boggling precision that they held together purely through friction and the immense pressure of the earth above them. And they stayed that way for millennia.
But the real genius, the secret sauce, was in the gradient. The engineers calculated a precise 1% slope for the entire system. And that was the magic number. It was just enough of a slope for the water to flow continuously, carrying all the waste with it, but not so steep that it would erode the channel over time. It was basically a self-cleaning, perpetual motion machine.
And that's the core technology here, a gravity-fed system. It was so smart. They just harnessed the natural landscape, using the height of the hills as the power source. It was sustainable, it was low maintenance, and it was utterly brilliant. No pumps, no complex machines, just gravity and sheer grit.
So, they solved the engineering problem. Awesome. But the consequences of that solution, they would change the world. This is the story of how a drained swamp became the foundation for a global superpower.
Just look at how fast everything changes once the water is gone. Around 600 BCE, they build the open canal. Less than 100 years later, on that newly drained land, the Roman Republic is born, centered on its brand new forum. And this wasn't just a market, it was the political and social heart of a centralized state, something totally impossible when everyone was stuck on their isolated hilltops.
And here's why that mattered so much. By draining the swamp and providing basic sanitation, the Cloaca Maxima allowed for a massive boom in population density. You see, you can't have a superpower without a huge concentrated population to fill your armies, run your government, and build your cities. This sewer made the centralized city-state not just possible, but powerful.
But here's the other crazy part. It wasn't just a drain pipe. Remember that incredible vaulted arch made with no mortar? Well, it wasn't just for water. It was so strong that it became the literal structural foundation, the hidden backbone for the massive stone temples and palaces of imperial Rome that were built directly on top of it.
Which brings us to its incredible, and I mean incredible legacy. And it teaches us a really powerful lesson about what truly lasts through history.
It's astonishing. After more than 2,500 years, after the rise and the complete collapse of the empire itself, parts of this ancient engineering marvel are still in use today, draining water from beneath the streets of modern Rome. It's still working.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. Think about it. The emperors, they built their golden palaces and their shining marble temples, All these visible symbols of power. And today, they're mostly ruins. But the anonymous Etruscan engineers, they built a functional, subterranean vault of volcanic stone. And it's still doing its job. In the end, grit outlasted glory.
So it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. As we go about our lives, surrounded by all of our own modern marvels, what are the invisible foundations, the sewers, the power grids, the lines of code that are holding our entire world up? And which of them, do you think, will still be working in 2600 years?